So unless you've been living under a rock in terms of AI, you've probably heard of MCP before. And MCP stands for Model Context Protocol. And all this really means is MCPs are a clean way to give AI access to external services. So if you have an MCP can do various things, but for the most part, it exposes tools. And so the reason MCPs make it easy for AI to use external services is you can have an external service, and that external service can expose a bunch of tools. And the AI can then say, okay, I want to interact with this MCP, look at all the tools it has access to, and then use those tools as and when it needs to. So for example, you might have a Google Calendar MCP, and that MCP, so you can interact with Google Calendar, would expose a bunch of tools related to Google Calendar. So if you gave your AI access to the Google Calendar MCP and you said to it, hey, go create an event in my Google Calendar, it would say, okay, I have access to the Google Calendar MCP. What tools do I have access to? And which is most applicable to what I need to do? Okay, the user has asked me to create an event. I can see I have access to this create event tool. So I'm going to use this tool to create an event. Or if you were to say, hey, AI, what events do I have coming up in my Google Calendar today? Again, it would say, okay, I have access to the Google Calendar MCP. These are the tools I have, which is most applicable to what the user has asked me to do. Okay, they've asked me what events there are in their calendar today. So list events is probably the best tool for this. So AI would then call that tool and then give you the results or use the result in some way. More often than not, when AI works with MCPs and tools, it chains tool calls. So for example, if I was to say, hey, AI, delete the third event in my calendar today, it would first say, okay, I need to delete event in Google Calendar MCP. It would say, okay, there is this delete event tool, but I don't know which event is the third event, so I first need to figure that out. So it would say, okay, let's use list events first. It would get the data from list events, look at that data, say, okay, this is the third event in the day, and then make the tool call to delete event to say, delete this third event that it got in the calendar. So MCPs are really powerful, and most of their power comes from training tool calls.